Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited about this one here tonight on Sportswire Radio because some people are already putting out their photos. It was a great 2025. Thank you, everybody. Not so fast here on this platform. I'm still going because there is a lot to talk about here, as always, on this platform, and especially the only platform not only all sports matters, all wrestling matters, but most importantly, all music matters. And this man here has got quite a story. He's going to talk a little bit about that. He's going to talk about a connection of a man that intertwined us here. And the reason that we're going to talk about an album that we're going to just say, I am sure we're going to depart from what we've known in the past. We're going to talk about that album. We're going to talk about some of the inspirations. We're going to talk about his journey, his career. Maybe we'll talk about Pigface. Maybe we'll talk about some famous names. Maybe we'll talk about something that can inspire you today, because everybody looks at social media, everybody goes on this and goes on that, but this man is forwarding a different path. And as we think about maybe closing the book today on 2025, maybe use this for 2026 to start a new path and depart from what you've done this year to set you off on the right foot. Now, I usually do a big intro for all the wrestlers that come on here because my platform's known for getting the WWE guys on here, but I want to formally introduce you because when I had Mr. Bottrell on here, I don't think he would have tolerated me screaming like Michael Buffer, and I'm not going to do that here for you. But I am nevertheless honored to have you on here as my last guest of 2025. I think there's no better person to be here with is the one and only Ali Jafri. You famously known him from his work with Pigface and now with an album that everybody is excited about from the group, the Shadow Modulus, The Departure. My friend, an absolute honor to have you on here. Thank you for all you've done, and thank you for the opportunity, and great to be here with you.
Thank you. And it's great to be invited by you, and I'm thankful to you as well. People like you are what, keeps us going. It's the lifeblood for independent artists, especially, to keep going and to have an opportunity to speak and share. Well, thank
I'm
you.
I'm glad you. I'll let the wrestlers know that want to hit me over the head with chairs for the next episode to say that this is what Ali said. So maybe just try to like. No, I'm just kidding. I like to do things a little differently here, but yeah, I figured I'd make you laugh. I mean,
Uh,
nevertheless, but it's a great honor to have you on here. We have a lot to talk about, and I want to get into it, especially for those that are listening here in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the platform that you and certainly the Shadow Modulus have certainly helped build.
mhm.
Talk to me about the departure. Talk to me now that it's almost 2 years out and overall response.
um, well, it's easily the most important work I've done and the most difficult work I've done. It came on the heels of the death of my son. He was 7 years old, and he contracted a very deadly brain tumor known
I'm sorry.
as DIPG. It stands for diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. It only affects children, and it's terminal. They don't have a cure for it as yet. Mind you, they have been having some breakthroughs recently, which I'm very happy about.
Me too. Me too.
Because it's a terrible disease. And through the experience, I not only experienced my own, grief with my son's passing, but I met other families that
Wow.
were dealing with similar or other terminal type of things. Because when you enter the hospital network, you meet other people,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's a terrible thing. And obviously, the dying anybody dying is bad news. But when it's a kid, and when you hear about other people's dying kids, it really
Tough.
really gives you perspective. And I was I was fortunate. I got a grant from Factor here in Canada, which allowed me to afford a producer like David Bottrell.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and
He's a big name. Yeah, I've heard of him.
yeah, and he mixed and produced the album, so he had those two
He even
roles.
played a synthesizer, right, on some of it too, right?
Yeah, and he also, like, we had to do some splits on the writing because I'm not gonna lie, when I went into the studio, I had a deadline, a very aggressive deadline. I was in the throes of the grief of my son's passing. And during my son's end of life phase, I wasn't playing music or practicing or
Right.
rehearsing or doing anything. So when it came time to go in the studio with a producer like Bottrell, of course, I'm rusty. I'm 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 grief struck. I have this opportunity with this grant to do something. So I really had to, lean, and I was so fortunate to have a producer like David Bottrell
Sure.
help me shape the songs. And the cliche is, a good producer brings the best of you out, and he did.
Yeah.
He worked with me, through the tears. There were tears in the studio. It was difficult to sing these songs and to craft these songs, but it was extremely cathartic. And I know other grieving people have resonated with it. And it's a subject matter not everybody wants to talk about, but
Yeah.
that's what we
Yeah.
artists do, though, right? We want to we
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would do that. I mean, I've certainly seen a lot on my platform over the years in the wrestling world, which is originally how I got connected to Bottrell, because he thought, okay, you know what, he's a somebody. Maybe I'll talk to him. But I mean, going into it, and you're fresh off the wounds of your son's death, and I mean, 7 years old, and Oshin, and just, I mean, how are you able to just get yourself to put the pen to the paper there, and do that? Because I mean, that's just, I mean, just that alone, I think, takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, and it was definitely difficult, and I'm still struggling. I still have days where I fall apart. You
I'm
know,
sure it's
I,
only a couple years old. It's not even. It's still fresh in the wound. I mean, it's only a few
y-
years old.
yeah, and there are triggers. I'll be out and about doing things, and I'll hear a kid in the park nearby, and it'll sound just like my kid saying "daddy" to their dad, and it sounds like my kid calling me. And things
Mm.
like that can just end my day. And it's tough to function sometimes because of that. And I know a lot of grieving people watching this right now can totally relate. And people are having a lot of tough times, with the
Very tough time. Yeah.
economic situation, the residual impact of COVID and the
Yeah.
lockdown situation, the
Yeah.
supply chain issues, and the costs of things going up, cost of living. um
Yeah, I'm in New York City, and it's like I don't even want. I mean, people look at me. I mean, I've done okay in life, but I mean, if I would have a family, I mean, we probably wouldn't be talking right now. The good news is I don't have a family. I mean, I can talk to you, which is you're happy about that. But yeah, I mean, just the cost of living, it's skyrocketed. I remember, as a kid, when I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and I just felt like everything, was just okay. We could afford everything, was affordable, and now it's just. It's and you had to deal with that struggle, and it led to you being homeless. That's just the crazy thing, that you were doing this project, and you were homeless. I mean, that's another
yeah,
thing you had to deal with.
yeah, my domestic partnership fell apart, and that's another thing with a dying child situation. Is it's from what I've learned through my own experience through it, is it's not uncommon for couples to break up when a child dies. It really, it's a challenging experience, and you learn a lot about yourself and other people. And with that, there's also a difference in grieving styles, and this, and you know what I mean. Some people withdraw, some people are open and vocal, and
Yeah,
there's cultural differences as well,
sure.
and how grief is handled. So a lot of those, without getting into the details, I'm not here to slander anybody, but there were issues, and some very drastic and extreme things happened, and I found myself with nowhere to live, nowhere to go, and I didn't have work. I spent all my savings during COVID to support myself and my family, and then when my son was sick, I continued to support. I paid. I contributed to a lot of his care, some renos at home for his time at home, and a trip to Iceland because he wanted to go. And we went. We had um, a clinical trial that we tried to do in Washington at the Children's Hospital, and after all of that, I was pretty skint as they say.
Yeah,
So
you went through a lot. No, there's definitely a lot that I mean you went through, and obviously we want to, give our thoughts to you. You almost remind me. I'm sure you remember the Will Smith movie, The Pursuit of Happiness, in the way you have your
mm,
son, and then he's obviously his situation is he's living at one point he's washing his face and himself in the bathroom somewhere, and you're kind of in a way like that to get to here. I mean, you go through this struggle with Oshin, you then go through this struggle with your other half, and then you're without a home, but yet you find a way to persevere. And I
yeah,
almost, I mean, to be where you are, I mean, that takes a lot. I'm going to say it. I mean, to quote one of my favorite wrestlers, Mick Foley, you have a lot of intestinal fortitude there. I mean, that's what you do. You have a lot of intestinal fortitude. Was there ever a time during that period in like 2023 that you were like, you know what? I'm done. I'm giving it up, and you know what? I just can't do it.
yeah, yeah. I had to go through a lot of therapy for those reasons. I didn't know what to do. I was so overcome, and I spoke to Martin Atkins, who
Oh yeah, of course. I mean,
is the head of Pigface and has been
of course.
a huge support for me in many ways. And I called him and I was like, "Look, I've got this grant and I got to do this thing with this bottrol guy. I don't think I can do it." I was literally on the verge, and I knew if I called Martin, he would give me some clarity, either yes or no
Mm.
with this decision. And he was like, "Hell no!" Like he's like, you gotta." He's a motivational guy, and anybody that knows him and is friends with him knows that about him. And he he gave me enough to keep going, and of course I have to credit my close friends and family too that support me and love me. And with all of that together, I decided to proceed, and it was tough, man. But there's nothing like a deadline. This is the thing. Like if I didn't have that deadline imposed on me by Factor, I probably would have hummed and hawed and dragged it out, and probably still be
Yeah.
working on it. To be
Look, it's like
honest.
it was like when you were in college or university, and we had to do finals and final papers. And I remember, I never forget when I was in college, and I would wait. They would, my professor, like everybody else, you would get the whole course syllabus, and then 4 months from now, you got to do your final, and you're like, oh, I got 4 months, and then 4 months turns into 2 months, and then it turns into 4 weeks, and then it turns into like 4 days, and maybe in a way that deadline helped you when it came to the music, and now it's been out there a while, and I mean the
Hmm.
music is just fantastic. I mean, I know you come from such an interesting and an eclectic world, but you're able to blend a lot of things. I've gotten a chance to listen to this now, The Departure. We're going to put some links up here. I just put your Instagram page. I'm going to put your Bandcamp up, and I don't
Thank
know
you.
if you've heard this yet from anybody, but for whatever reason, some of the songs here on the album remind me of the John Wick 3 movie, the John Wick soundtrack, and all those things. You got just some of those tones in there reminds me of some of the scenes in that movie. I don't even know if you intended to that. I mean, your story obviously is kind of like Mr. Wick. You're fighting all these different things, except obviously Oshin's dead. His wife was dead. I mean, but I mean, you've definitely got that influence there, that Middle Eastern influence, and there's definitely some scenes in that movie. But I mean, musically, how did you approach putting this together in terms of what we've heard now when it comes to The Departure?
Well, I've always been into fusion. I used to be the marketing manager at Small World Music Society here in Toronto, and
Yeah, I heard of that.
we present a lot of international um, people that are from around the world. People like Zakir Hussain, who recently passed away, classical Indian tabla master, musicians from all over the globe of his stature and profile. And I've always had a love for world music, and being a person of my ethnic background, is part of my culture. But I also was born and raised in Toronto, and as a Canadian, I fell in love with a lot of Western music. And there, you see the picture of David J. I was a huge Bauhaus fan
I was going to
growing up,
ask you about him, and definitely he was on
and
my agenda.
yeah, and The Cure is like one of my favorite bands, as you probably could tell in the
Yeah,
bouncing
well, and we know
there.
the news what happened recently. Obviously, we're all kind of bummed about that.
Yeah, Perry, Perry aka Teddy. His death
Yep.
is obviously not good or not expected either
No.
untimely. Didn't see that coming. And but all this to say, like it was, I've always done this. I had a band called Ariel for nearly 20 years. I've done some stuff independently. I've collaborated with others, and my whole thing has always been about fusing different cultures because I feel like that represents me, and that's what the Shadow Majlis is about. A Majlis is like a shadow council. Majlis is like a gathering or a council, and I say shadow because I've always liked the fringe. I've always liked alternative. I've always liked, the fringe
The outskirts, yeah.
arts. Yeah, and I find, the spotlight's good. There's some good artists in the spotlight, but when you look at the mass of artists that are not seen or known and the various genres and talents, there's a huge pool there. And there are a lot of unknowns that have lived and died in the history of the world, and I kind of want to make it my mission to shine a light and to do things in a different way and to try to bring people out from the alternative realm. Like obviously David J is a successful person being in two huge bands and
Yeah.
Bauhaus and Love and Rockets, but he represents something to me as, someone who pushes the envelope, and to have him come on the album and to work with me. We've been friends. This is how I was able to approach him, is because of our friendship. And he himself as an artist, as a person, having been able to sit down with him and talk to him, he's cultured, he's read, he knows things, and I want to be like that. I admire artists that have they spread their net wide in terms of what their influences are. And I want that to be reflected. Cultures, genres, styles,
Well, we were
instrumentation,
talking about
all that.
that with David. I mean, when David was here, and that's the reason we're connected. I mean, yeah, people
Hmm.
know David from Tool's work. Tool's iconic. They know him from Peter
Hmm.
Gabriel, obviously, and won a Grammy there. Rush and Mastodon. I mean, they're tremendous bands. But David even talked about, as a producer himself, that you do need to expand your horizons. You don't want to continue to do the same thing. In his influence in world music, David has produced a lot of world music, and obviously we know with
Hmm.
passions with him and Peter Gabriel. So I agree with you, and I get a lot of wrestlers on my platform. That's the reason why I'm really connected ultimately to you. And in wrestling, we always talk about, we always want to continue to progress. We always want to do things differently. We want to, work with different people. We want to see it and go to different places. I've long talked about that, and I really think, as a musician, which you are, obviously a very talented one and a successful one, I think that this record shows that. It shows
Hmm.
the different things. I mean, I hear industrial, I hear the sitar, I hear world music, I hear the chants, I hear the vocals, I hear
Hmm.
a man pouring out his life on
Well,
for us onto a screen and such. But I really think in a lot of ways, your album is almost like the United Nations.
well, well. Thanks for saying that, because I that's how I'd like it to be perceived. Because we live in a very interesting time with a lot of
Mm,
polarization, a lot of
yeah.
division. And I think our role as artists is to transcend all of that. We're all
Yep.
people, and we're all one, and we're all connected. And I'm of Muslim descent. I was raised in a certain way, and people have certain perceptions of people like me.
Sure.
And the world is not black and white. There's a lot of crossover, there's a lot of connection, and I want to demonstrate that. And my son Oshin, he was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Irish kid. He's I adopted him. His mom had him by IVF, and I met them when he was just a year old, and he didn't have a father figure in his life, and I became that. And then his mom and I had Oscar, his younger brother, who's in the next room here. I'm in Michigan right now visiting with my
Yeah, I
brother.
know. We were talking about this on the air, and I do want to shout out your manager, Lisa, because
Yeah,
we were talking about this, and you were in Michigan right now. But for those
yeah.
that know, I'll make you laugh because I get on actually a lot of wrestlers, and we know that Detroit and Toronto, it's basically a hop, skipping, jumping away. I mean, because I've had on a guy, Rhino from Detroit, who's wrestled and she came out of actually trained in Toronto, outside of Toronto. So I know the Toronto Detroit
Yeah,
situation like a few minutes from each other. So.
yeah, it's just a few hours drive, and
Yep.
it's nice. And but I'll back to Oshin. But like
Yeah.
I I loved and helped raise this blonde haired, blue eyed Irish kid, because that's my vision for the world. They say to be the change, right? And
Absolutely.
I see no reason for racism, sexism, any kind of phobia. We need to like be rid of the fear. People are really, I think, inherently good. And people, even the ones that piss me off, even the ones I disagree with, I know deep down inside there's somebody in there that uh, that is good and is deserving of love, and we need to remember that with each other. And I think through transcending all of this and showing the collaboration that we can have culturally, linguistically, artistically, it highlights that. And there's so much to share in common. We're wasting our time talking about differences. And
Absolutely. We only live once, right? We only live once. I
yeah,
mean,
and it's through love that we can transcend anything.
yeah.
And and I come from a music background that is very alternative. It's anger based, and I love this expression. People say that like hippies are people that appear as good people, but they're bad, and punks and goths and metalheads, they're actually good people that appear mean. And I agree with that.
Well, I mean,
I
it's a good way to, it's a good analogy. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that on some of the other bands that come on here, and I'm going to use it on the wrestlers that come on here, because when they try to hit me with a chair shot, I'm going to remind them of what you said. But the album is great, and I want to talk about it for a little while. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. Your voice, figuratively and literally, where all music matters. Here we are here with the one and only Mr. Ali Jafri. He is the man behind the Shadow Modulus, and the album The Departure is out now. You can also go to the website, theshadowmodulus.bandcamp.com. You can also go to theshadowmodulus.com. You can also go to the Shadow Modulus on Instagram. You can go to a number of other places for more information. We are very honored to have him on here, and there is no better way, I think, than to close out 2025 and depart by having on Mr. Jafri himself. And the album is great. We're very excited about it. We want to give him some things as well. And if you are here, like, share, and subscribe to us here on Sportswire Radio. I think one of my favorite tracks on the album is the one Love in Flames. I don't know why, but Love in Flames and The Way Home. Those two songs hit me the most. It's a great album. All of it is great. I've gotten a chance to, but those two songs for me maybe hit me the most. I know it's hard as an artist for you to say what's your favorite song. What's this? I know obviously Deer in the Headlights is the video, The Departure is the video, and I mean, but for you, is there a couple of songs that stand out most on The Departure?
Yeah, and that would be The Way Home is definitely one of them, because you hear Oshin's voice at the
Yeah,
beginning.
I knew that. Yeah, I knew that. That was right after the intro.
and
Yep.
and during COVID, I did a lot of music writing and playing, and Oshin would jam with me, and
Oh wow.
we had some percussive video footage of us playing stuff, and Bottrell took the audio from that and
Oh.
incorporated some of that into the track. So when you hear some of the percussion that comes in as the song builds, it's actually me and Oshin
Oh
playing
wow, that's really
playing
cool.
that.
That is
So
so cool.
for me, on a sentimental level, that's extremely, like, for me, it's a gift to myself. When I miss Oshin, listening to this stuff is so cathartic. And then the other one is Bishno Asne, which is
Yes.
it's a Farsi song based on it's written by Rumi, famous poet and mystic from the 13th century. He died in 1273. He wrote
Wow.
this famous poem, and I sing it in Farsi, and I have experience as a Sufi, and my son was training to be a whirling dervish, and you can hear his voice chanting Yahai, which is Arabic for the living, and which is one of the things Sufis chant. Uh, and when you see the whirling ceremony, there's various things that gets chanted, and Yahai, which is the living, was something that Oshin would like to chant, and I had audio of him doing that while he was practicing how to whirl. I would drum for him, and he would whirl,
Oh wow.
and so you hear him chanting that. So you hear a little kid's voice whispering Yahai, Yahai, with the rhythmic beat, and
Yeah.
for me, it's extremely powerful for me to hear my son's voice chanting the living. And it speaks to the fact that we live beyond the form of our bodies, and that there is, you know, uh, we are, we have souls in our bodies, and we are living. Hang on a second, I'm
That's
having.
okay. No, we know obviously that there things happen, and obviously we're very excited to have Ali on here. And if you're out there, follow him on all social media platforms, and we will be here throughout the remainder of the hour. Go ahead. Yes, we're here. We're
For
listening.
for some reason, I'm being told I have a low battery on my laptop here.
Oh
Mind
boy.
you, I have it plugged into the wall,
Oh.
and it's all
Well,
connected.
well, hopefully you don't depart with us on here. I mean, we certainly wouldn't want that. I mean,
No,
you
we
know,
wouldn't. We wouldn't
I
want that.
wouldn't. We've
I'm
actually
trying.
enjoying the conversation with you, and hopefully, we'll get management on it. I mean, or somebody out there.
I'm.
And
I'm.
obviously,
I'm. I'm gonna try to fix this problem. Hang on a second.
well, I'll pause it, and we'll give you an opportunity to fix that. So hang on tight, ladies and gentlemen.
Hang on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, we're back, and that was quicker than a New York minute, and so glad that you didn't depart on us. So there you go.
Yeah, it was good. I'm sorry. It's as I said, I'm visiting my brother's place, and for some reason that plug wasn't working.
We're rocking. We're the one and only Ali Jafri here. So I'm happy. I'd rather have you than Ryan Seacrest.
Thank you. That's not saying much, but thank you.
No, it's saying a lot because I want to have you on here. We
I know,
told
I know, I know, I know. I'm just taking a dig at Ryan Seacrest just to be.
yeah, Ryan Seacrest and certainly plastic surgery called and said come back, but we'll let him know. Trying a career stand up comedy because this may not work out. Lisa will probably say no good interview, but we'll leave it at that.
It's fun to be mean sometimes, right? Because
Yeah.
those of us those
Be
of us
here
that
every day with who I have on my platform. No, I'm kidding, but no, I mean, I think it's interesting. One of the things you said before we had this little technical issue was that when we look back on our life, right, we only get one chance, but now forever, your history with your son, it's out there. It's out there for the world. People have heard it. Thousands upon thousands of people have gotten a chance to hear this music, to hear this song, so you can look at it in a way from this tragedy. Hope springs eternal because now forever we're going to hear your son's voice out there, your story, your music, and I think that that's inspirational.
Yeah, and it's also acknowledging that I'm not alone, and
Yes.
and there are other parents that are feeling this, and I've been, as I said earlier in the interview, my grief is compounded with all these other things, and seeing not just my own story, but all these other families. And then you look at the news, what's going on around the world. There's dead kids on the news all the time. And it's a terrible, terrible situation. A lot of people are grieving. So I feel,
Absolutely.
and a lot of music's job is to do that. There's a lot of sad songs, the blues and everything.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's I think that's the power of music, is to help with
People
the it's
Bring
cathartic.
yeah, catharticism. No, there's no question that is that. And I mean, one of the things you've done that I think is so interesting, and everybody gets focused on social media, but you've been kind of forging a different path in terms of getting people to hear the music with this whole mailing list and everybody getting involved with that to stay up to date with you. And I think that that's really fascinating because you're taking a different approach in 2025.
Yeah, well, with Meta and Google and everybody having control over everything, the algorithms on social media used to be, advantageous, used to serve us artists, but not anymore. You have to spend money, you have to have certain strategies to do things. And what if one day everything just falls apart or changes, which has sort of been happening slowly? Now all of a sudden we don't have access to our fan base the way we used to, and we're beholden to these entities, and it doesn't have to be. And I as an independent artist, if you sign up for my mailing list, I'm not going to spam you, I'm not selling your email address to anybody. You're not going to suddenly get a lot of spam, and you'll get into, and this is what I want to do. I want to have my own ecosystem where I have a relationship with my audience and actually have a direct line of communication and to be able to have exchanges, and not just on social media where you're commenting or passively seeing stuff. You can actually, like in my newsletters, I want to share content, behind the scenes stuff. Also,
Sure.
take requests from people. If people want to talk about things, I
Yeah,
also
we do
want to
that in
have.
wrestling. We use Patreon. A lot of the wrestlers, they use Patreon with the companies I work with, kind of like at your level, but even more underground. And they'll have a Patreon page, or they'll have something that you can access exclusively, where you get certain things that maybe on a Facebook page or an Instagram page or a TikTok or a YouTube you may not get. So I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of doing things too where people can get involved in the creative process. Where if I'm working on a set of songs, like I'm working on a remix project right now. I'm working with Stoneburner, Julian Beeston, Adoration Destroyed. Martin Atkins has also expressed interest in remixing a song from The Departure and reinterpreting some of these songs and releasing them, and maybe getting people a chance to listen to some of these remixes and helping me choose which one to release first, because I'm going to do them as singles. So like having a little bit of an inside thing, where the perks of being on the mailing list is to be part of that conversation, where you'll get a sneak peek of what things are sounding like, and you can help me make decisions to which should be released first. And then also I might even share some of my songs in progress, play some demos for you, have
That's a
Zoom,
good idea. Yeah, I've heard
have
that. Yeah, I've heard that
have
before.
have Zoom calls, play some of my demos, and get people's feedback on which one they think is the most interesting for me to flesh out. Because sometimes I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, I really like this idea, that idea, but I got to like sit down and like focus and finish a song,
Yeah.
and I have like five or six going,
Yeah,
and
it's hard. My dad was a drummer, and I never forget. He'd always just sometimes he'd just sit there and he couldn't do it. It was always when I was a kid growing up. He always wanted to write a book, and I never forget. He'd get through it, and then he couldn't do it. He had one or two really good ideas, and it never fell through. I know as a musician, sometimes we get writer's block, or sometimes we're in the studio and it's hard. So
mm,
I think getting the fans involved, it builds a more direct relationship with the fans, keeps them involved, but maybe for you as an artist, keeps that creative juice going.
yeah, and the best case scenario is for me to do music that I enjoy that people also want to hear, and it's a win-win. I'm enjoying the artistic license and integrity, and the people that are in my audience that are talking to me also can have a hand in steering things, and they're getting what they want. And like if they're in a listening room with me online and they're like, I really really like this one, I'm like, okay, I'll flesh that one out, and then
Yeah.
I do it.
You're doing a focus group, basically. You're doing a
Yeah,
focus group
yeah,
into what
and then,
your feedback is for.
and then it comes out as a single, and of course people that are involved, I'm gonna like, they're gonna get rewarded with things. I'll they'll, if I'm coming to their town, they'll be on the guest list, or they get merch, or they get to have some familiarity with me. If I get to meet them, be like, oh wow, I remember, of course I'll
I
remember
feel like
these.
you want to meet them.
Exactly.
I mean, after they just, hey, you helped me, put the right song together, the song name
Yeah,
out there. Yeah, bands used to do that with Kickstarter. Remember Kickstarter bands?
yeah,
With
yeah.
so I think it's a creative idea. There's Patreon pages out there, and I think it's a really good idea. And you and I were talking about this off the air, and I got to bring it up because I just wish we knew each other 8 or 9 months ago, and Botchel would have came on then instead of now, because you played not too far from me at the Bowery, and I got to talk to you about that. You played
Mm.
there, and what was that experience like? And anything else you want to tell us?
Yeah, that was an amazing experience. I love New York. It's one of my favorite cities, and um, it definitely feels more like Chicago and New York feel more like home to me than Toronto does, and it's the vibe there, the atmosphere, and for me to get my first gig in New York at the Bowery on a Friday night, and I was a headliner too, which
Yeah,
was
I saw you
you
played
know
9:45. I was like, wow, I was really impressed.
it was the last one on, and it was really, I don't know what to say. It was great sound, great venue, great people, great city, great
Yeah,
area. I love the Bowery. It's a
me
nice
too.
area, and I got to catch up with some friends too, and I made a nice trip of it. It was, there was a lot of new friends made, and I'm hoping to play there again. And I am working with Happy Nomad Booking, who got
Oh
me that,
yeah, I know. I heard a Happy Nomad booking. Yeah.
and they got me that gig, and I'm working on some more shows. That's something I really want to do this year. Um, it's been difficult trying to do these songs. It's just to be frank, it's an emotional thing, and I feel like I did that show in New York, and it went well, and I thought I would do more, but I've been pacing myself a little bit, but I think I'm now ready I'm now at a place where I can go out and play and
I
do
think
these
you should,
songs.
because I think with the record now being out almost 2 years, I think people should get a chance to hear it, or if they haven't heard it the first time, because I talk with a lot of these different bands, and live music is still the way to get out there and hear your music, and especially you. I think as an artist, I think people would want to give this a chance. So I would hope that you get out there and perform in 2026, because I think people would want to see and get a chance to hear this music, because I personally think, based on the playing here, that it would sound even better live.
Yeah, and that's something that I definitely want to do. My favorite thing to do is to play live. I love being in a room with the audience and having that exchange. It's my favorite thing. And meeting with people and talking with
Yeah.
people. I love I love that aspect, that human connection, and I'm finding it's becoming more important with the advent of AI and
Yeah,
a
we're
lot.
talking about this with Bottrill, and I just had on who it's going to air on New Year's Day, but Gus G, who played with Ozzy Osbourne, and we're talking about AI in music, and I mean, it's kind of an unknown. I mean, the music industry's obviously changed so dramatically from when you and I were growing up, certainly, to where it is today. But I don't even know the role of AI and how that plays out for musicians and such.
Yeah, well, there's AI bands out there now, and there's a lot of people using AI to create, and a lot of people. But I've just been finding there's like this decentralization that's been going on with the advent of the internet. Starting with Napster, and then
I remember
eventually
LimeWire. Remember LimeWire all those
LimeWire,
years ago?
Napster, and
Yeah.
all.
Yep.
Yeah, and then we got this like big, huge issue of artists not making money. And now we're getting issues of people like just not going out because COVID lockdown got people out of the habit of going out and
Yep.
staying home. And people stay home, they watch their Netflix, they watch their Disney or their whatever. They have so many reasons to stay
Yeah.
home. And it's having a social cultural impact. And I think AI is just driving it even
We've been
further.
isolated, like off the point about social media. You think about again. I'm pretty sure I can safely say this. When you and I were growing up, I didn't even have a cell phone. I mean, I still remember
Mm,
the only way I went out and play. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and in the street, I just had to knock on a kid's door and hope that the kids on my block were going to come out that day. I mean, there was no, like, now. It's such a different world. Even the little kids have, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok.
mhm.
So now people, they can just stay home and entertain themselves. They have Xbox, they have PlayStation. When we were growing up, we didn't have those things. It was like you
Mm.
went outside. My parents were like, get out of the house and don't come back until we told you to. And I think now it's such a different world because people just, they have everything. We've become more of an
Yeah.
isolated society. Society's become so much more isolated than it was,
Yeah.
20, definitely 30 years ago.
In our day, you used to have the news start with "It's 11 o'clock. Do you know
Yeah,
where your
7 o'clock.
children
Listen,
are?"
six thirty. It was 6:30 news or 5 o'clock news if you were up or
I
later in the day, and
I know, but they would ask you at 11, "Do you know where your children are?"
yes, I remember that. Yes,
Because
Eyewitness News here growing up in New York.
we
Yes,
because we
yeah.
grew up in a feral time when
It was a different
we
world. It was just a different world. We didn't have. Listen, I didn't have a cell phone growing up. I didn't have a cell phone until I went to college. I didn't. There was
uh,
nothing. I mean, you were just like fended for yourself. There was no nothing. I mean, but now today, I
but
mean, and AI is an advent to that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, but so what I think is going to happen, and I hope I'm right, and I don't have a crystal ball. Obviously, I'm not a psychic, but I think
Ah,
humans being humans we get bored of whatever we're doing.
yeah.
It only has its novelty for a time. I think, and this is where I want to do, is have intimate live experiences that have an immersive quality to it as well. That really, really goes against that. I think it's going to become novel to sit around a fire outside with acoustic instruments, because all of this digital content that people are taking in, it's gonna run out of gas eventually, and it's gonna lose its novelty. And obviously, it's gonna obviously evolve, and it's gonna have uh, various stages of novelty, and it's gonna refresh itself. But
Yeah,
I think at the core, though, humans really do thrive in gatherings, and
absolutely.
I think we need to go back to we're kind of reverting to old times. Music started around fires, and it was acoustic, and it involved storytelling, and it involved a lot of community, you know, cohesion. And
Yeah.
I think as social animals, we still respond to that, and we will be craving that some more. It's just a pendulum. It's swinging towards this decentralized, isolated way, and I think the pendulum will swing eventually, as long as we, the artists, hold that.
No,
We
I
need,
think that's a very good
you
point.
know,
I think it's I'm with you on that, and obviously we're honored to have you on here. I do have a couple things I want to give you, but I'll do that in a few minutes. But you talked about David J earlier, so I got to bring it up. I got to bring him up and his influence and his impact, and on this record, having someone like him on here. I know you spoke a little bit about him earlier, but just talk about him and just the importance of his playing on this record.
well, he's as I said before, he and I have a friendship, and um, we've had a lot of exchanges. I went on the road with him in 2017 doing living room concerts. So we drove together. We spent time on the road, and there's nothing like road tripping with somebody.
We're in wrestling. That is like the thing. If wrestlers go town to town, they want to be in that car ride. They want to talk about the next match. They want to talk
Uh,
about what they're gonna do here. That's a big
yeah,
thing in wrestling.
yeah. So I've had that pleasure of doing that. He stayed at my place for 3 days to rehearse. We started in Toronto. We ended up in Massachusetts, and it was a really, really good bonding time for me. And to have somebody that I've been listening to since I was a teenager. And here's the thing: I was raised in a conservative Muslim environment, and I wasn't allowed to listen to music. So I would secretly, listen to Bauhaus and The Cure, and I would go to the library and sign out cassettes
Oh wow,
of,
okay. I
of
do
this
remember,
music.
growing up. I had a library card here. I do remember the library.
So,
Yep, that's funny.
like a good boy, I would go to the library. My parents would be so happy that I'm going to the library. But
Wow.
so
I
along
can
with
picture that. I can totally picture that. Yeah, I get it. I remember those
uh,
days.
along with the books, I was sneaking in some music, and
Ah.
I scored a Walkman, and I would have these like really private listening sessions. So to have that experience, and then to be sitting with this guy who's from that band, and having this experience to play with him and getting to know him as a person, which to me is like the most valuable thing for me as an artist. It's not about the money, it's not about fame, success, or anything. It's getting to know people, and especially people that you've admired from afar, and having that exchange. Like those are things I can take to my grave, and actually will remain with me. And
Yeah.
this is what it's about. So to have that kind of person who gets it, who's on that vibe, to be able to contribute to the album and is a friend and cares. You know what I mean? He had an emotional response as my friend to what happened, and his contributions reflect that. He wasn't just some hired gun, you know.
We
You
were
know,
talking about that with Gus G about higher guns off the air. We don't. We
you
want to
know.
be. You want to feel. You want to make. When even David talked about it, Mr. Bottrell, about idea.
Mhm.
Music has to have identity, and I feel like that the album has that identity. There's a feel to it. It's not a bunch of session players. I think that's a really important part. The integrity of this album shows that.
Yeah, and to me, it was important to have people that I felt had a certain integrity, and David J definitely fits that bill. And goes without saying, he's a talented, musician.
Yeah.
I wanted his fretless bass. He showed up with the Bauhaus bass. It still had the strings on it from Bauhaus's performance at Coachella. That famous one where
Wow.
Peter
Okay.
Murphy was hanging upside down. He did Bela Lugosi's Dead. That it was that bass, the same strings, and that he used that bass on the album. And he also did some really interesting things. There's little Easter egg things, like at the end of Savage Castaway, he's hitting single notes. That's the Bella note, Undead. So little
Wow.
Undead nod for my Oshin.
I have to ask you this question because I know you've been through so much, and I always like to ask people like yourself who've had success and have done different things. Because I get a lot of up and coming people on here, but if you had advice for anybody, what would it be?
Advice for anybody
Yeah.
as a musician or
Yeah, it could be whatever you want. I mean, you've been through a lot. I mean, a musician, you can answer just a musician if you want, or whatever you want to interpret it as. I
I
think.
would say get to know yourself. That's like the most important job you have, to know yourself. And that's not to be selfish, but it's to understand who you are in order to be able to show up, because that's what your loved ones count on you for, is to show up. But you need to show up at your spot at the table, and you need to determine where that is and what that looks like. And knowing yourself comes through a lot of experience, trying new things, learning, traveling, trying to really ask the deep questions and to be honest. And with that too is, I'd say, the most valuable commodity resource we have is time.
I
People
knew you were
folk
going to say, yeah.
People focus on money. Of course, money helps. I'm not going to deny that. But time is a limited resource that's just running out. Money comes and goes. You can have money in your hand, lose it, and get it back. Time,
Mm.
it's not coming back. And
Yeah.
and what
That's a
you
good
do with
point.
your time is crucial. And don't waste your time on people, things, issues that diminish you. And again, be a good person, be kind, regardless of what the world tries to do to you. The punkest thing to do is to be healthy and to be happy, because the system, the man, doesn't want you to be either of those things.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, one of the things that always stuck out with me, my mom said, my mom's birthday is Friday, so happy birthday to my mom, was that you could have all this money, but when you die, you can't take it with you. So you could look at it and all the materials that you have out there when you go, well, you can't take it with you. But time, you can't get that back. So time, you got to try to
Mm.
use as efficiently as possible, which allows me the opportunity now to share my screen because I want to give you a couple of things while I have a little more time with you. The first thing I
Okay.
want to do, yeah, I want to give you a couple of things because obviously, at
Thank
least
you.
yeah, it's my pleasure. And I'm going to share my screen because first of all, it's the group's day today, so we're gonna give you that. I gotta give you something. This I always like to do things different. I know you did a couple of these before, and everybody, you give your time, and I wanted to give you something. So
I
that's
put
the
my
first
glasses
thing.
on for this.
Yeah, and I got one
Oh
more
wow.
thing, which you'll really like after this. So this is the first thing. So today we're gonna air it tonight on all of our platforms. It's the day for the group. So everything you've done, I wanted to give you
Oh
that.
wow. Thank
Yes,
you.
yeah, we'll give that to Lisa, and then I want to do this for you, especially because now I put you in my Hall of Fame. So I put you in the Hall of Fame today because I think you
Oh
are a Hall
wow.
of Fame guy. Yeah, you're a Hall of Famer. You're a Hall of Famer, out there in music and outside of it. And I wanted to do that, and we'll give that to obviously management, and we're off the air. And I think you are very worthy of it, and you've done so much for us and just everything in your inspirational journey into where you are today. And I think that you deserve this, and I hope you'll accept it.
I do accept it. I appreciate it. You gave it to Bottrell too, so I'm
I
like,
did give it to Bottrell, but it was funny. I think you would have the better reaction because Bottrell's a 3-time Grammy Award winner, and he's more guys that have sold millions. So for Bottrell, I mean, it's like I love
true.
Bottrell. No, Bottrell's hooked me up twice now. So actually, I have Bastion Rose, and I think Jay Willow's on the way. So Buster Bottrell likes me, but I think Mr. Bottrell, he's got plenty of these types of things. I mean, he's got
Yeah.
platinum this, platinum that. Who's who,
It,
but
It's
I
true.
think you deserve this. So I think
Thank
you're
you.
great. We talked a little bit off the air, and I had a good feeling about the interview, and I continue to praise you, and I really enjoy the record. And one of the songs I want to talk about is "The Departure" because it was kind of written with some outside world references there. Also, I think it's another song I got to talk to you about.
Yeah, the title track. I in my days with Small World Music, we worked with a band called Dacha Bracha from Ukraine,
Okay.
and Olena, who is in the band, all four members of the group sing, and they're all phenomenal singers. But
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Olena is my favorite of the group, and during production, they played a show in Toronto, and I went to that show with one of my ex bandmates. And during the show, I was listening. I'm like, oh my god, I wonder if she'll sing on the album. Like had this inspiration. I had this ambient track instrumental, and I was thinking, oh my god, her voice on that would be phenomenal. So I messaged her and talked to her management about it, and she agreed. And she recorded in Kiev when they got back
Yes.
from their tour. The Russians were attacking. It was a very tense time. Speaking of grief, she's a Ukrainian
Oh my God.
grieving
Yeah.
the
Horrible.
situation. And amongst the shit, she goes into a studio and records this amazing track. So again, there's a depth to her performance as it is, but the context within which she did that and the way she delivered through the difficulty and the hardship, and to do that is it was a Ukrainian lullaby, which I thought was a beautiful choice. Uh, I never heard it before, but man, it's a gorgeous vocal performance that just sat perfectly in this ambient track. And then David J threw in some silky fretless bass. To have
Yeah.
David J from Bauhaus and Olena from Dacha Bracha on a track produced by David Bottrell, who's my dream producer, being a world music guy and an alternative music guy, and we have so much in common. Um, like to me, it really for me was an important. It earned the title track name, like, and it's I don't know, for me it was extremely special, and I left it as the last track because I felt like that was the perfect piece to end on. And
Yeah, I
there's
was
a
gonna say because that's the last track of the record, and fittingly enough, like you said, the title track, but also the end of the record, which I think is so interesting the way you did that.
Yeah, and there's like this snuffing out sound of the reverb, which
Yep.
for me sonically represents my son's last breath, which was something I witnessed, and I wanted to have that be represented in some way. And I felt like that being the last thing you hear is that snuffing sound. That is like it was a perfect way to end. And I felt like this collaboration with Elena and the story of the Ukrainian people, um, wrapped in with this grief again, the universality of the grief experience. There's Ukrainian grief on here. There's Turkish grief on here. I recorded some stuff in Turkey. I landed 4 hours before that massive earthquake that happened in February 2023,
Oh
and the
wow.
whole country was mourning. I was supposed to get a few people to play. I couldn't because of the mood was
Oh
not there.
yeah. They had an
Um,
earthquake. I think they have a reason.
yeah, and the guy I did get to play, he was volunteering, doing relief effort work. Uh, in his off time between his shifts, he recorded with me. And there's the Turkish grief, the Ukrainian grief tied into this. It was very heavy sessions, man.
Yeah,
You
no, I
know.
mean, it's just your work on this. It's heavy in so many formats, and one of the other things I wanted to talk about before I get to final thoughts is your community work. You've so much have always put community over anything else, whether it's humanitarian efforts, whether it's just being a part of different things that you feel are important. And talk to me about how that influences you and maybe what's next and such.
Well, I have to give credit to people like Martin Atkins doing the pig face thing. Pig face is a perfect example of this collaborative, community oriented project. and there's no egos. It's, the one rule in being in Big Face is don't be an asshole. And I can live by that. I can appreciate that. And that's something I hold to for myself and anybody I work with. I don't work with assholes, and there's no time for that.
Absolutely.
And community is about that, not being an asshole. And we have to. This life is about that, and it's such a more fulfilling way to be. Whether you're a doctor, whether you're an artist, whether you're a worker, whatever you are, a community connection is what it's about. And when you go to your grave, and it's something I think about all the time, is the day I die, am I going to be satisfied with what I did with my time? And the best way is to spend time with loved ones, friends, community, bringing people together, making uplifting people, and to be a positive influence. And all of the artists I like have been about that. And one of my favorites is Robert Smith. Robert Smith has
Yeah.
always been a guy of integrity. Although he's had a lot of pop success, I love his red carpet moment at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame
Oh
in
yeah,
Downtown.
yeah, yeah. I remember that. I remember
And then
that.
when Perry Monty died, they had like a Hollywood Walk of Fame photo of the band, and you see his face. He's like, he's always kind of taking the piss out of the business and the industry, and not taking himself too damn seriously. And I love that. And
Yeah.
and that's and it's that's what it's about. And I think people need to feel connected, and we as artists have a role in doing that. And as an artist, another one of my favorites is Tricky has an interesting take on things. Like, he doesn't like seeing a separation between him and the audience. He just sees himself as the one in the fortunate position to produce the music that these people would have made if they could. You know what I mean?
Good point.
It's like, I'm an ambassador to my audience. If they could make music, they would be doing what I'm doing, and they are therefore not no different than me. I'm 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 an ambassador for them in the music world, and that's what motivates me. People always said, "Stop." I used to bitch about music. I hate this. I hate that music. They go, "Well, then make the music you want to make." It's like, okay,
Yeah, that's a
you
good
know,
point. Yeah,
challenge
that's a good
accepted.
point. That's a good point. No,
And
that's a good point. My dad, when he was alive, he played the drums, and he always didn't say music sucked. Maybe you didn't like an artist, but he would always try to impress upon that you could appreciate something out of it. So whether it's like you said, The Cure, whether it's any other artist that you could think of, there's something that you should try to take away from that, even if it's not your particular cup of tea. And I think that that's a really good approach. And I got to ask you, obviously now with 2026 upon us, you have any New Year's resolutions?
not really. I try to have daily resolutions.
That's a good point. That's a good one. Because
You know
people,
what I mean?
everybody gets hyped up. Oh, all of a sudden now I got New Year's resolutions, and I asked this question once to a wrestler. This is a couple years ago, and the average person that they hold on and stay true to their New Year's resolutions is less than 3 weeks. So after what's the point? So try to that's why I thought I'd be curious what you'd have to say on that.
Yeah, no, I used to do that kind of thing, but it would always be a wagon to fall off of. It's like, and it's like, what makes. I also think the whole New Year's thing is kind of BS. I think the true New Year's is the spring.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've always been I've always to me felt like summer. That's where like to me like every day is kind of like a New Year's. Like New Year's Day, I was talking about this with somebody where I live yesterday, and people are like all of a sudden they get all excited about New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. To me, it's not really a holiday or anything. It's really not. I don't get into it. I've never been a fan
yeah,
of the whole New Year's Eve, New Year's resolutions, but turning into 2026, obviously, again, we know the album's been out. We know you've had some success with it. People really enjoy it. There's certainly an artistic integrity, but you do want to maybe put out some new music again, or how do you follow something up like this?
it's a good question because
That's why I'm here.
yeah, like I would love to work with David Bottrell again, budget permitting. Um,
Well, maybe we
And
can get you. Can we get you another grant? Hopefully.
yeah, I'd love to apply for another grant and try to do that. But I also feel now, like, a lot of advice I'm getting, which is sound, is release singles, man. Like
You
like
know, we were talking about. I talk about this all the time. Bands now don't want to put out full length albums. Bands. I mean, I've had all these bands in rock. I mean, I had King's X, Doug Pinnick, and they haven't
mhm.
put an album out. They put one album out in 20 years. I mean, I had the guy Randy Jackson, a Zebra, and you'll laugh. They put out one record in '86, one in 2003, and supposed to put out
Yeah,
one in 26. People, it's not the way it was when you and I would go to a record store and go through A to Z. Gus G made that point. Nobody goes into Tower Records or Virgin, or here in the city we had all the stores in the village. It's not what it was anymore. So it's like a CD is almost a collectible.
yeah. But personally, I love the idea of an album and having a concept and having a common thread and having that cohesive production feel where you went into the studio, you played in the same room, used the same mics, used the same, you know, console, control room, and it's got this cohesive feel. You did it within a certain time frame with these people, and the whole album kind of carries the spirit within it across the songs. I love that, and I would love to create that, but given the realities and the
Yeah.
financial realities of making music and people not buying music anymore, which can change. If you're watching this, please buy music again.
You know what? I still buy CDs. I have
Uh,
always been a believer in supporting the artist. I've always done that because I do feel there's something that's important to have that physical copy, and I
yeah.
know it's such a different world. I mean, when you, like I said, you and I were growing up, you mentioned the Walkman. I do remember having a Walkman. I had a cassette player, CD players. Certainly, I mean, there was something to physically going out there when your favorite band's album came out on the first day, and going to whether it was like a Virgin Records, a Tower Records, or wherever else you had independent mom and pop shop to buy music. But it's always fascinating to me after something like this. How do you follow that up? I think that's always just
Well,
the
I
whole
think,
challenge.
well, again, if I do a single with David Bottrell, I can afford that more, way more easily than a whole album. Um, it's still not cheap, given,
No.
like, he's a world class producer,
Oh, the guy worked with somebody you've definitely been in the same room with, Danny Carey of Tool. I mean,
yeah.
this is a guy, David Bottrell's got
Uh,
3 Grammys, and you know him very well. I mean, I'm gonna tell
yeah,
you.
yeah, and I've worked with Danny Carey too, and big
I
fan.
saw that. That's why I
Yeah,
segued right into that. I mean, you've worked with Danny Carey. I mean, you should get Danny Carey on drums for the next record and get Botch. Maybe Bottrell can, maybe donate some of his time for the community work, charitable
I
efforts.
don't.
I mean, I'm
I,
sure Mr. Bottrell can afford it. I mean, Mr. Bottrell.
I don't know if I can afford Danny Carey and
Oh,
David
well, all right. Well,
Bottrell.
maybe maybe Santa, somebody will do it, give us a generous loan or a grant, and we
Yeah.
can, at the very least, have Mr. Bottrell allow you in his new studio where he recorded the interview with us here, and maybe he can, I'm sure for
Mm,
community services, he's always been involved with community work, and you've a humanitarian in your own right. Maybe we can do that. I don't know. I
yeah.
mean,
I almost got one of my other favorite drummers. Actually, I would love Martin Atkins to do something, but he's so busy.
that's another good one. That's
He's another.
another great one.
I almost had Budgie from Susie and the Banshees.
No, really? Wow, that would have been massive,
Yeah,
boy.
my dream was to have David J and Budgie. I got letters of intent from all of them. I got
Wow.
Mark Chevenice from the Mission, David J, and then Budgie. I had letters of intent. I was applying for grants, but it turned out, he lives in Berlin. There's
Yeah, I
logistical
knew that.
issues. He's, the intent was there, the desire was there, but there's a logistic issue.
That's tough.
I'm just like so thrilled to even have had a few conversations with Budgie, and
Yeah.
and a lovely guy, amazing drummer, and I'm going off topic here with the
No,
name
no, no,
checking.
no, no, no,
Sorry,
no. It's a
uh,
good point. It's a good point.
but the thing I'm trying to get at here is, I do want to do things on a high level. I do want to have collaborators that I love and respect, known and unknown. It's not just about famous people. There are a lot of unknown, talented people out there that I would love to showcase, and some of them are on my album, on the Departure. There's not everybody is well known,
No, I know that.
and
No, look, you
and
have a really a great group of musicians. I mean, it's definitely a
yeah,
musician's record. It's not just about David J and David Bottrell. I mean, you have some
yeah,
really great artists on there. So I mean, you definitely put the work in for the record.
yeah. So going forward, I got the remixes in the works. My main obstacle is always finances, and I'm always trying to navigate that. I like paying people. Let's I want to put my money where my mouth is. I want to get paid, and if I want to get paid, I got to make sure I pay people too. Like it's a
Sure.
respect. It's the respectful thing to do. People are talented, and they're giving their time and energy and talent, and they're helping me with stuff. I gotta pay them, and it's just the way it works. And so I want to have the budget to do good work, and I want to keep up the standard of the songwriting and the production and the musicianship and all of it, because I think at the end of the day, um, as a musician, we're doing a service by providing this art for people to consume, and I want it to be as good as it can be, and not to be too perfectionist where nothing gets done, which I do tend to do. Like be that perfectionist
I
who
think that's any
used
artist.
to
So I mean,
you need to draw the line in the sand and have that deadline imposed to get things done. And so yeah, I do plan on doing singles. I would love to work with David Bottrell again and again, and 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 I have a lot of friends I want to tie in, and there's a lot of new people I want to meet that I haven't met yet that I'm sure I'll want to work with, and I want to live my life as a collaborative guy. Uh, Hopefully giving people good experiences while I have good experiences with them as well, and die one day very happy, reflecting on all these experiences, and
well,
hopefully the people that heard the stuff we did also enjoyed it, and
Well, I think a lot of people should hear it, and I want to, before I get to some final things, go out there and check some of it out. You can do that on YouTube. You can see some of the stuff that Ali and the gang has. You can also check him out on Bandcamp. You can also check him out on Instagram. You can check him out on Facebook. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can connect with the Shadow Modulus project, and there is certainly no better way in 2026 by doing that. There's some great lyric videos out there, some other videos you can see, performances, some other things done. It's a really outstanding album. It's just got a lot of different things. I personally love the sitar playing in there, because I first knew about the sitar, believe it, you're gonna laugh, from, well, it was Queensryche and Rush. Alex Lifeson on Vapor Trails played the sitar, and then
hmm
on a Queensryche song I Am I on Promised Land, it was Chris DeGarmo played on sitar, and I'm like, wow, there we go. There's the sitar. It's a great instrument, and it's played here on this record. There's a lot of great musicians that are on here. Mark Gemini, Ann Bourne. I mean, there's a long list of, Elena, you mentioned. I mean,
hmm
so many of them. You have to check it out. I know we're coming close to the end of our time, but if you had anything you wanted to say to anybody here that's watching this, to take away from your experience, maybe to help them in whatever it might be they're going through, whether it's a situation you went through with your son or just
hmm
with this record, what would it be?
keep going, and to believe in yourself. You never know what's coming around the corner, and I know this from my experience. I've had a lot of difficulties, and so have a lot of my friends, and I've learned through them and from my own experience. You never know what's around the corner, and after difficult times, there's always some ease on the way. It's just the way it goes. And so if you're having a hard time, just keep going, keep going, because better times, easier times are always on the way, and it's worth it. It's what builds character, and you won't regret holding on and keeping going. And I've had my experiences, and I'm so glad I'm still here, and I plan to keep going. And I don't know. It's it's
I
it's
hope
easier.
you're here. I hope to see you back when you come to New York and
Yeah.
I meet you and watch you perform and who knows, maybe we'll buy you a slice of pizza here in New York City because you said Chicago and New York and I do prefer the New York pizza over the Chicago
Oh
pizza.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Me too. New York pizza is better.
I'll make you laugh. Actually, there's a famous pizza place here in Brooklyn, and there was someone from Toronto, a big foodie, and he
Hmm.
actually went. He drove all the way from Toronto to Brooklyn and have this place. We're not, so it's New York pizza is one thing, and I know that Ali Jafri's performances with the Shadow Modulus will be another thing. And obviously, we're very honored to have you on here, and I want to
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for your time. I want
Thank
to
you.
pass the baton. Do you want to give any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? The floor is yours.
Yeah. As we talked about before, please sign up for my mailing list at theshadowmodulus.com. Be part of the community. There's it'll be a great way for us to connect and to stay in touch. And there's a lot of perks uh, in being part of the community. And also, it's a cheap way too. It doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. It's a good point.
and following all the socials, as much as I'm trying to distance myself from it, all of the grant giving agencies, all of the labels, anybody that like could possibly work with me, they do look at these
No,
numbers.
they do. They want to
and
see how many
and
followers you have. They want to see it.
and I've been spending a lot of time on myself, grieving, getting
Sure,
through everything,
understandable.
and I've not been um, promoting. I have a manager, but
Yes.
I need help with the marketing. And I did hire a PR person when the album came out, but that was a limited time. The PR window is only so
Well, you
much.
can come back on Sportswire. You can come back on with us. We'll take you.
uh, yeah, next time I'm coming to New York, maybe
We can
we
hang
can
out.
talk.
Yeah, we can hang out.
And then and
You'll
if
laugh. I've met the three wrestlers I interviewed, and two of them were from the UK. And that's the first one we met. It was in the morning in by City Hall, and it wasn't quite great. But the second wrestler I met, we did have a slice of pizza here in New York. It was fun. I took him.
uh,
We were by 42nd Street, so that was cool.
if you're ever in Toronto too, and
Good point. One of my
shoot,
buddies from New York is a DJ, Erzin Krivka, and he is from Toronto. We've been friends for like 20 years, so he always talks to me about Toronto. Yeah, Toronto's a great place. I have to show up.
yeah, come by and visit. Let me
We'll go to
know.
Bottrell's house. No, it'll be on Bottrell. I'm just kidding.
He doesn't. He's well, yeah. He's doing a lot of his work out of Dundas.
Yeah, I know that, but
It's just outside of Toronto. But anyway,
yep.
also send Lisa your address. I'll send you a CD.
Well, we'll buy it, but I'll send you the certificate. But no, we'll buy it. I'm on the mailing list. I am on the mailing list, so Lisa's happy
Yeah,
about that. We'll take care of that. But yeah, definitely hope that we meet. I have a feeling that we will. And I want to thank you really for all that you've done. I want to thank you for your inspirational story tonight. I want to thank you for everything you've done to put the courage to put yourself out there and put pen to the paper and see it and to see this result. I mean, this result speaks volumes to your character, the people behind you. And that's why I want everybody to follow the Shadow Modulus on Instagram, shadowmodulus.bandcamp.com, theshadowmodulus.com. Also, YouTube. Hit that sub button for me. The Shadow Modulus. You can go out there and see the lyric videos, performances. Also, Ali's page on Facebook, Instagram. You got to support this man. That's why we're so honored that you were our last interview of 2025. And
thank you.
you're the last. We saved the best for last. We're departing with the best. No, we know. Seriously, I
Yeah.
had an opportunity to choose it with a backyard wrestler. We were going with you because you are a man that has certainly done so much. Pigface and your own work and Bottrell and yeah. Otherwise, if I don't end with you, Mr. Bottrell, then we'll say none of his clients will come back on here. So I have to end with you. Trying career stand-up comedy, but Bottrell's gonna hate me after this interview, guaranteed. But no, we love Mr. Bottrell. It was fun. I'll make you laugh. My mom is a singer. Happy birthday to her. And she saw Bottrell on it. I said, now you got to tell Bottrell I'm a singer. I'm available. And I said, boy, if I say that on air, well, I guess what I just did. Now Bottrell's going to hear that and be, boy, it's, you can see him still. But we'll really thank you here. It's been a lot of fun and hope to see you. Yeah, come back on anytime you want. And congratulations on the success of the record and Happy New Year. And thank you for being here. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you and to everybody out there. Keep your chin up.
I don't have a chin, so it's the running joke. I have to try really hard to keep that up. But
Yeah.
there you go. But that is Ali
Yeah.
Jafri. He is, of course, behind the Shadow Modulus, his project that's out now, the shadowmodulus.bandcamp.com. Also, the shadowmodulus.com, Instagram, YouTube, follow, hit the sub button. Also, the departure is that you got to buy it. It's only $15. If you join the mailing list, it's only $10. Join the mailing list, the shadowmodulus.com. Guess what? It costs nothing. All you have to do is do that. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice, figuratively and literally, where all music matters. We will be here New Year's Day, 7 o'clock Eastern time with the one and only Gus G. But until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. On the number one, Global Radio, that is Sports by Radio, where all music matters. Thank you, everybody. Happy New Year. All the best.